All right. Hello, hello. Testing. Good. It works. Okay. Thank you for being here. I think it's one of the first talks in the whole develop. So thank you for choosing. I know it's really hard to choose from. There's so many talks. And yeah, let's hope we enjoy the rest of this beautiful event. The first thing, we changed the name of this talk. Originally was called Middle Managing and Scuba Diving. Yes, you'll see in a minute. Just for clarity, we kept it like this, which goes along the lines of what we're going to see. But we're also going to talk about scuba diving, just so you know. Maybe there's some scuba divers, maybe not. At some point, we'll connect both things together. But right now, let's get into it. I'll introduce myself a little bit so you know who is this guy here. I'm a senior animator at Lab42, which is part of the Sumo group, which is all over the world, pretty much. We, Lab42, we're located in Sumo in Leamington, so a little north. And I'm a senior animator. So what happened before this? Because now we're talking about being a middle manager. Before this, I studied business back in Barcelona, where I'm originally from. And after that, I did a few jobs, like recent graduate jobs, nothing particularly interesting, quite dull, actually. But during that time, I managed to meet all kind of managers, middle managers, high managers, bosses, whatever. And I worked mostly doing absolutely everything from, I don't know, accountant, payroll, deliveries, any kind of managing staff, personnel, hiring, firing. And the companies were mostly like construction companies, window factories, and very dry stuff, not like what we do now, luckily, which is games. So after that, I thought I wasted my time for a little bit. I thought, well, I really don't want to spend the rest of my life doing this. So I went into cinema. And from cinema, I discovered animation. And from animation, the first Silk Road, finally, I went into video games, which is what I truly love. But now, that gave me an interesting perspective of seeing a little bit of both worlds, of seeing how a very dry corporate way works, and then how we do things in our industry. So before I continue, yes, and one more thing I would like to say about myself, because you may think, and there's this misconception, I consider myself more, I don't like the black and white distinction, but more of an introverted person. And to kill a little bit this conception of like managing and middle management, etc., you should have that, the extroverted, that person who likes to talk with them. It's not about that. It's not necessary. I know so many great studio directors, managers, bosses that are introverted. So I wanted to share that about myself too. Okay, so what is a middle manager? Because it's hard to define it. There's so many job titles nowadays. It's not straightforward. So what we consider for this talk, middle manager, is someone who is taking those first steps into management. For instance, let's say you're a coder, and you've been coding for a few years. Everything has been going great. Your company is growing. And now we're going to hire a couple of more coders. Would you be willing to help us hiring those people, maybe managing their tasks, managing the team, helping them, progression, etc.? Are you up for this task? And if you say yes, you'll start to dip that first step into management. That's why I call it middle management. And also, you will continue doing your tasks. You'll be a coder at the same time. So you will be handling with both things at the same time, which can be quite overwhelming. Why did I choose this position, besides that I'm in it myself right now? Is because it's like the first step. And I want to share this guy, the imposter guy, or no? Yes, because I know so many great middle managers, great colleagues, great friends, family members, co-workers that they would be absolutely great middle managers or great managers in general, and they think they are not good enough. What I said before about being introverted or not understanding well what it means to be a middle manager, checking the time because I start talking and I stop. What it means to be a middle manager, or what it means to be a good one. And I want to explore a little bit that today through scuba diving as well later on. So we know as a middle manager, I'm giving this talk because of this reason. Hopefully this encourages some people to know what it truly means. So what would be a good middle manager, or a good manager? This talk, I want to give it from my perspective, for all the things that I've learned. I don't want to get extremely technical or theoretical. There's so much literature, talks, actual research. But I want to tell you, I want to share what I've seen, what it truly works, the essential, the things that you probably won't find in books. And what I observed, let's say you have this colleague, another animator, and he finally got that promotion, or he got the project that he wanted to do, or he got that raise. And you are happy for that person. When you feel happy, you say, I'm good for you, man. That is already a really good key feature that makes a difference. Now, let's say that you help that person. He needed some help with his animation or with his code because it wasn't working, and you helped that person. And he managed to work it out and then get that promotion, and you feel happy, powerful, strong, that you managed to change someone's life for the best. And that's one of the key skills that you usually won't find in any book that makes a huge difference. And that's why I invite people to think, well, I'm sort of like that. I'm happy. I would love to help people and achieve their full potential. And I hate that, like achieve the full potential is like a motivational talk, but no. What I mean by that is like a summary of make sure they grow, make sure they progress, make sure they are happy, they are working on the things they truly like, whenever it's possible. And if you are happy trying to achieve that and make their lives easier, and that makes you happy, you will be happy, they will be happy, we'll all be happy, and then we'll make the best games because we're here to make games, and everybody will be happy because the best games are the games that make the most money. So we'll make happy everybody from the top, from the bottom. So why not? Why not give it a try? And I know it's complicated. I know the human interaction scares away so many people because it can get infinitely complex. This is like a PvP or a PvE game. Like if you're playing versus environment, it's very easy. It's predictable, the AI, more or less. But once you deal with humans, you never know where that person may come from. They shoot you from the roof, they teabag you, they insult you through the chat. You know, it's true. It gets really complicated, and that's what makes PvP games so addictive sometimes, or rewarding if you achieve a great victory with your team, for instance. So that's a little metaphor to say it can be a bit scary, but it can be rewarding at the same time. Another good exercise that you can think, like I've been before, if you could be a good middle manager, is think about your previous bosses, managers, etc. How were they? Which one was the good one? Which one was the bad one? And why was he the good one? And can I apply the things he did well to myself? Can I do it as well? And the things that the other guy did poorly, can I avoid that? Like the basic steps to think, because I want to put that question in people's mind. When you reach that path, you say, should I say yes to this middle management role? Or should I say, no, is this for me? Is this not for me? So think about those things. Will you be happy helping people? Will you be happy? Can you do what the other guy did for you and help other people? It's all about that. And it can be very rewarding. So let's see what comes next. As I said, we're going to talk about scuba diving now. So forget about middle management. So this is from PADI, which is one of the official diving agencies that are out there. And as you can see, this is like the progression path that there is. There's many levels in between, and there's more to follow. But these ones are like the biggest three first progression steps. As you can see, we have the beginner. And what I really like about this is that it connects well with the description. which the dive student learns to manage himself. Then we have the bad one, where the dive student is directed to the environment. And lastly, the rescue diver, where the dive student learns to take responsibility for his body. So me, I'm a certified rescue diver, which sounds cool, but it's not. It's just pretty much that in case of an emergency, you know how to act. It's not like I'm jumping from helicopters to save people. But is the third step. As you can see, they divided it in 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to get too deep into any technical stuff. Don't worry about that. You've played Subnautica or you've seen some movies and you know more or less how that works. And we're going to use that to connect it a little bit with managing. So what I was doing the rescue diver course, which was last year, and then last year I also started getting into middle management at Lafforge 2. I realized that those things have a connection, and I realized that it's quite related to this progression path. So I made it a bit prettier. You can dive into it. And I connected it, you see well, yes, with 3 spheres of awareness, as I call it. This is true. We begin with ourselves, with the environment, with the situation, with the fish and the coral, and lastly, a global awareness with it. You can see this guy here? Yes. There's another diver here. And that's where we want to get. So, let me see. Or self-awareness, okay. This is where it begins, with me, that I'm here. Everything begins with me, and it's very egocentric, I would say, but it's like a video game character, that everything around you is happening around you. The NPCs, the interaction, everything is focused on you. So, end of the day, this is the center of everything. So we need to take good care of it. So now we're gonna go diving. And it's perfect because we're here in Brighton, right in front of the sea. So without getting too technical, we are going to go there now. I imagine it, to the beach there, to the rocky beach. We have our cylinder, where we have mask. We have this inflatable jacket that we can inflate and deflate to go up and down. We have fins. We're ready to go. We're ready to dive. So we swim into the sea, and then we release some air and we go underwater. Okay, I really like about diving that it's very silent. You can't hear anything except you breathing. So now we are underwater, and now is when things start getting interesting. And this is like the first steps when you start learning about diving, is to stay on top of yourself. And that's a lot of work already. For instance, how deep are we right now? We went down. We can check. We're at 10 meters. It's important. Are we staying at 10 meters? Are we going up? Are we going down? We're staying at 10 meters. What's our air? How much air do we have left? You don't need to be an expert scuba diver to know that, well, if you run out of the air underwater, it's not good. So there's clear consequences. You need to stay on top of these things. And that's the first things, if you go and try scuba diving, that's the first things you're going to learn. You need to stay on top of the air. You need to stay on top of your buoyancy. Are you going up? Are you ascending? Are you descending? What's going on? How long you've been here? Also, you probably know, have you cleared your sinuses, like in the plane? Otherwise, you have problems in your ears. And I don't want to scare anyone. It's really rewarding. This is like driving. If you drive properly, everything will be okay. If you drive recklessly, you may have issues. So if you do this safely, there won't be any issues. But if you do not do it safely and you neglect your air consumption, or you neglect your depth, etc., you may run into really ugly issues. And I like to connect this now with our managing skills and with our daily life and with ourselves. So what I mean about that everything begins here is, I mean that everything begins with us. How can we help this little guy that was here if we are running out of air and we are in a difficult situation? So how are we? How are you? How are you physically speaking? How is your health? How is this newly discovered thing of mental health? How are you? These things are important. How is your interaction, social interaction, how your hygiene, working routines, how your diet. The most dangerous thing about these things that begins here is that it's very easy to neglect. You can easily forget about it or just carry on and continue sleeping 2 hours a night or eating McDonald's every single day, and you just carry on. And you don't realize that those things will have consequences. That's why I like the example. And if we are having problems, as I said before, running out of air, or we are having problems after sleeping 2 hours a night for 6 months, we won't be able to help somebody else. We won't be able to help that person achieve their full potential. So that's the time to ask yourselves, like, are you actually taking care of yourself? Are you doing something about it? And I don't mean that you need to have the perfect life. Everything needs to be under control to be a middle manager or taking care of other people. That's impossible. It's like going diving and not consuming any air. Of course, you're going to consume air and you're going to run out of it at some point, but you're checking it. You're staying on top of it. And that's what I mean. Interesting enough, there's so much material, as I said before, about this, how to properly take care of yourself. And different things work for different people. I don't want to get very specific now, but it depends on your situation. What I really want to emphasize, and I know, yeah, Mark, I know about this, but how are you actually doing about something already? Do you know someone who's doing it? And you need to stay on top. And it seems like a threat, but it will come back to you. Here in this game development thing, we're here for the long run. We're not here for like a 100-meter race to develop a game in 2 years and completely burn ourselves out, and then that's it. We need to retire. So if we're here in the long run, we need to do this the smart way and take care of ourselves and do it nice and slow and steady. Otherwise, it's like running out of air, and we really don't want that. Things build over time, and things get back to you. So stay on top of it. As I say, it's about staying on top of it. It's about recognizing I'm having issues paying my bills. I'm struggling with this, that. I know that's happening, and I'm going to do something about it. Not put it back and just move on. It will come back, and we can't help other people if we're struggling with those things. Now, we can make a whole talk about this, and I believe there's another talk about this in Brighton, in Develop. So that's a perfect chance. As I said before, each person is different, and something different works for you. So think about that. But now, since we've been absolutely great divers, we are back underwater, I'm thinking. And we're the best divers, so we got our air under control, perfect. We got our buoyancy, we're not going up, we clear our sinuses, perfect. Now, that leaves us some mental capacity to finally look around. And that's when we can see some fishy, we can see some corals, and also we can see some dangers that they may around us. Maybe that a red coral that is really dangerous, or a wreck. By the way, there's a really cool wreck here. It's from Brighton. But you can see that wreck, dangerous. You can see fishing line. You can see a fishing net, very dangerous to get tangled under a fishing net. So we are finally being able to look around us and see what's going on. And we need to stay on top of that too, on top of ourselves. And now we can look around and stay on top of our environment. So that's for our diving allegory, for our metaphor. So what do I mean about that when I'm talking about us, it's the surface world? I'm talking about your working environment. I'm talking about your project, your tasks, the meetings that you have, the amount of meetings, the amount of work, the pipelines, the communication in your team, all those things that surround you are done directly a part of yourself or a part of somebody else. How are those things? We can continue with the example of this Timmy who's been sleeping 2 hours a day and he has 2 million tasks and he's barely sleeping, he's completely stressed. Also, he has all these meetings to try to make this thing work. And that's when most people say, oh yeah, Mark, that is great. I know that that's a problem. I know this, I can't continue like this and this will bite us in the back, but what can we do? The client is expecting this delivery in 6 months. There's nothing we can do. We need to do this. Yes, Tini, you can continue doing this, but eventually it won't work out. And we know it. That's what I said before about the 100-meter race or the 42-kilometer marathon. I'm not happy. You are not happy. I'm stressed. I'm not sleeping. I'm covered in tasks and big things and things that it seems that nothing is going anywhere. And it's about to saying, stop, and you can do something about it. And to me, that thing, it took me years to learn that you can actually do something about it. I used to think, well, that's the way it is. I mean, there's this delivery, we have this amount of time, there's this amount of work, and it is what it is. We need to do it. And you burn yourself, and you work too long. But you can do something about it, and you can say stop, and you can talk to the people. And it doesn't matter who you are. You can be the junior or the senior. You can make a difference because we all know that what we're doing here is not sustainable. We know it's not healthy and it can continue going for too long. So the fact that you're speaking up, it can make the difference. Absolutely. And it's hard, I know, and probably nothing will happen the next day and nothing will happen in the following weeks, but it stays in people's minds. And we know that we can continue like this. And you shouldn't let that continue. And that's your environment. So as I said before, how are we going to look at that person, at this other diver over there, at this other coworker, and look at them and help them and listen to them if we are completely struggling, first with ourselves, and secondly, with the environment. If we are running out of air and tangled under a fishing line, we can't help anyone. How can we do that if we are completely overwhelmed? And I realize that many people is like, yeah, I'm ready. Give me the how to deal, how do I deal with difficult conversations? How do I deal with this person, this situation? I'm ready to do it. It's all about that. No. It begins with you, and it begins with your surroundings. And once you can take care of those things, and you are in a stable position, and you are on top of those things, I don't mean it has to be perfect, as I said before. Now we can free some of our mental capacity and reach the other people. So maybe you go back, as I said before, and you think about poor examples for bosses. You realize that some of them were under these circumstances, how they were able to help you or achieve your dreams or help you grow or give you the project you want if they're completely overwhelmed and crushed under these things. So now we can proceed. We've been taking care of ourselves. We've been taking care of the environment. So, okay. I go back to my scuba diving moment, and we're good. We're in the water here in Brighton. Where are we? We're at 10 meters. We got plenty of air. We clear sinuses, clear the mask. We are like exemplary scuba divers. We are taking care of the environment. We see there, fishing net, this wreck, tangling hazards, all good. We're staying clear. Visibility, currents, we're staying on top of all this. Excellent. Now we can finally see this guy over here. We free this mental capacity. We are not covered by all this. We can see what's going on around. And this is where I want to share those two basic, essential skills that I think that makes the difference when it comes to this managing. But I'll do it with this little example that actually happened to me a few months ago when I went diving in Wales, and it was the Eastern break. So it was quite bad. There was bad weather, lots of current. And I was with my buddy diving there in the ocean. And I see this guy that it was like descending, but he was like descending like this, and with bubbles all over the place. And I saw that and I thought, well, that's not how people usually do it. You never know. But it's true. Some people do weird things. And that's when I saw it, and we went with my buddy to check on him. And he actually had a failure of the jacket that you can inflate. And we just helped him to the surface. He went to the boat. End of the story. No problem. But the interesting thing that my buddy told me is like, how did you spot it? Because there's lots of things going on around. It's not like we're isolating all these examples into little segments. But in our daily life, or when diving, everything is happening at the same time. There's this fish that comes, there's you're checking the air, then there's, what's the name? Kelp. I don't know, so many things that happen at the same time, and you get overwhelmed by all these stimuli. And you may ignore, and you may not see that person in trouble, like that was the case. So the guy got out, everything was fine, but it was about a matter of spotting it. So those are the two things that I want to highlight: the ability of observing and the ability of communication. Underwater, we can't talk unless you have those fancy masks, but we usually just need to use hand gestures. So imagine how important is communication for us humans, that even underwater we use gestures to communicate, even if we can't speak. So, of course, yeah, we went to the guy and he communicated that he had an issue with the BCD, it's called the jacket, and we helped him out. So the first thing was observing that thing, stay on top of all those things and being able to observe it, and then communicate it with that person. So now when it comes to the time of talking about how to help those people to achieve their full potential, as I said before, there's so much thing, there's other talks, I've seen it and I'm absolutely going to them, about specific things, specific steps. But to me, we are all different. We are all unique. And we're in different environments, actually. You may be working from home. You may be working a huge team of hundreds of people. You may be working a small team with friends. It's all different. So what are those things that I've seen that are very important? And as I said before, that ability of observe and communicate, having that open channel constantly, going back and forth. So you may realize that you like to communicate via emails, or you like to communicate via calls or text messages or in-person meetings or whatever works for you. You are different. The person you're dealing with is different. The team you are working with is different. So maybe one thing works for you, another thing doesn't. You go to this talk and you realize it's a great thing for you, this method that they teach you there, or you realize it's useless. We're all different. But the important thing is there must be that back and forth, constant and often, because that allows you to observe and react to those changes and those problems that they may have. Before we've been dealing with ourselves, we know that because the interests are going up, I'm struggling to pay my mortgage. And we know that I'm struggling with 2 million tasks because we need to do this delivery. Now that we know that, we've been dealing effectively with those things for ourselves. What about that other person? Can we see that? Can we spot that? If I suffer that, maybe they are suffering from it. And that open communication and constant and often enable us to see those things and spot them and trying to help them. And that makes a whole difference. And observing. As I said before, maybe what was the cost of, I see this guy going down, descending like this. I just approach it and I ask, are you okay? Is everything okay? Maybe he said, yes, I love to do this. This is my new descending technique. And that's completely fine. I say, okay, good. And I just swim away and it's done. But maybe there was a problem. And that, I hope all these things that I'm saying, you are like thinking about, or surface well as well, what I'm saying. Like you see this person, you see this little thing, this little change, this change in behavior, diet, things that they've been doing, and you think, are you okay? And that can make a difference to help. And in general, this talk is not just for someone who's thinking about, should I be a middle manager? It can be for anyone. It's as long as you care about the people and you want to help them in as much as you can. This is for you, and you can think if it applies to you and if you like doing it. Now, the other thing, it gets more serious. It's like you actually have to help people, and you have to actually be observing and communicating. But simplifying and putting into the most essential terms, I hope that people who are about to do it, people who are just doing it right now, or even people who've been doing it for a long time, maybe you forget what it's truly about. That is helping other people, helping the potential, and communicating, and stay on top of that. So, let me see. Where are we? Drink. What I like about these examples, all of it, is that the consequences are very clear. I mean, you neglect the air, you'll be in trouble. You stay tangled, you run out of air, you'll be in trouble. And you don't communicate properly, and you'll be in trouble. Now, as I said before, in our daily lives, it's really easy to just keep pushing that thing of, I'm sleeping 2 hours, I'm working 2 million tasks an hour, I'm in 2 million meetings, and you keep going, and you keep going, and keep going. Somehow, I don't know, humans are very strong. But I like to think about this perspective and think about it, that it's not immediate. That's a cool thing about video games sometimes, that you have immediate feedback. You fall in that pit and you die. You know that you shouldn't fall in that pit. Now, you have the worst diet you can have because you don't have time to cook or to eat healthy, but you can keep carry on. But eventually, something will happen, it will come back at you, and it won't allow you to effectively help other people. And that's why we're here for. As I said before, we can make a whole talk about this. There are no talks. There's like conferences probably about this. There's books, there's literature, endless. And go ahead and find what really works for you. What kind of communication, what kind of team, what kind of everything, what kind of person-person interaction is different. And as I said before, I am more of an introverted person. Maybe the other one too. You prefer emails. Maybe you prefer a good big meeting. Everyone's different. So, we're done with the diving allegory, but I like this picture. I have a very short PowerPoint. This is it. Very clear, straight to the point. I like this because this is the Predator movie. Pretty much summarizes why we're here and what we've been talking about. This helping each other and this collaboration. So, what have we learned in this thing? We learned different skills, like more skills that I'm sharing you from my experience and from my heart to what I've seen that really makes the difference for a middle manager or a manager or whoever goes. That empathy, that caring, that being happy to help and achieve other people achieve their dreams, that makes the difference. It's not about that super extroverted person I have. That reminds me of, I had a friend in the previous company who was showing up 8 in the morning after going for a 20-kilometer jog with a Costa coffee in the hand. He was like, "Good morning, team. How are we doing? How are we feeling today?" And you don't need to be that person. I mean, it's really hard. I couldn't. I was just dying in the computer. But it's not about that. And it's about this. And it truly makes the difference. I'm not saying that having people skills, etc., is not relevant. It's absolutely important. But it's not essential, and it doesn't need to be that only way that I'm showing here. So we learned that from one side. Then we learned that everything begins with us, and we learned a little bit of diving. Hopefully someone will be curious and will want to try some scuba diving. But we learned that everything begins here with us. We need to take care first of ourselves, and then that frees us some mental capacity to take care of our surroundings, of our environment, which means those tasks, those meetings, those projects, those people, etc. We take care of those. And then finally, we have some time to help other people once we're taking care of those things. And since we've been effectively taking care of ourselves and of the environment, we can empathize and think what we've been through and help those people too. Let me see. And lastly, the thing, it's can be very challenging. As I said, the PvP example before, it can be very scary dealing with other people. And you may think also that you are not good enough, as I showed imposter guy before. And you really think about it. No one is good enough. Who is perfect and who can flawlessly interact and help other people to achieve their utmost potential? It's impossible. So don't think about it that way, like I'm not good enough. I will think, if I got those skills, I care, and I try, might as well give it a try. It's very worth it. It can be very rewarding when you see, as I said before, the example, you see that person getting that promotion, getting that, working on the project they want, achieving what they wanted or growing, learning something new, and you see how they grow and how they enjoy it and how happily they start working, and it makes you happy. That's truly important. Then that's the base. Then we can start building on top as much as we want. We learn this communication method, we learn this effective way of dealing with problems, etc., and we start building on top of that. But those are I would say, the entry level, the basic. Do you have that? That's more than enough. Give it a go. Don't be scared and say, oh no, no, better not. I'm not sure. This is not for me. And that's the whole point of this talk. I've seen that happening so many times, and we've lost so many great line managers in history or middle managers just because they felt they were not good enough or they didn't understand well what does it mean to do this. So the last thing I want to share with you is one thing. I think you learned it in the first class or first page of the scuba diving thing, at least with Paddy. And all these things happen at the same time. And now I'm talking about scuba diving, as I said before. And it can be very scary when you are diving, and let's say there's something like you get tangled here. And because you can see you have so much stuff on you, and you just feel that you can't swim anymore, and you start shaking and trying to release it, and you can't go, and then you start panicking. You think, oh shit, I'm here, like I can't move, I can't go up, I'm on air, I'm underwater, I'm 20 meters underwater, what I'm going to do, and you can panic. And that could be a perfect allegory of what we're doing right here, of all these things coming at your face. So the first thing that they teach you is like to stop. Stop shaking, stop moving, stop because you're not doing anything, and then breathe, and then act. And I like to use that trick both underwater and in the surface as well. When I get all these things happening at the same time, these problems, not sleep, not eating, tasks, meetings, deadlines, everything at the same time, stop it. And then you can breathe, and then do something about it. And it truly helps. You can be easily overwhelmed by life itself, both in the surface and the water. So with that, I thank you for coming here. Hopefully it gives you a different perspective, a more humane perspective from my side. I don't know if we have time for questions, but first talk, I'll be here the following 3 days, so feel free to reach out. Those are my socials. I'll be around here, so thank you. Thank you. Hopefully this makes a difference. Thank you. Right. How does this work now?
So we're going to pass around a microphone to everyone. So if you have any questions, please stick your hands into the air and we will run over to you. You've got 5 minutes for questions.
Hi, Mark.
Oh.
You talked about inspiring bosses. Who's inspired you, and what was it about them that inspired your management style?
Very personal one. Let's not give names here. No, actually, it's one of the bosses that I had back at the beginning at Barcelona. And because it was such a dry environment, here we are really inspired. Making games is a really different environment. And that, I think they were making tiny toys. It was a horrible, dry environment. And in the middle of that Wild West, let's say, because it was like the jungle. It was kill or be killed. Nobody cared about anything, just about profits. In the middle of all that, that guy appeared and gave a more humane touch to everything and to everyone, and humanized a really inhuman, a really factory-like environment, made it something enjoyable for everyone. So I realized that there's not only one way, there's many ways, and all it takes is just trying it. And it's fun because one of the most exploitative people was John Ford, well, making all cars, but he was the one to research that actually employees in a good environment, they perform better. So it's about keeping that in mind. But you forget, once you're there, you forget about that. So that's one of that boss really inspired me, if that answers the question.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. So do you have any advice or sort of strategies that help to bring teams sort of together and use these principles when, for example, in studios that are working remotely and you can't necessarily sort of touch base with your team in the same way? How would you apply the sort of stop, breathe, and communicate effectively with people who are, all over the world or just not in the same room?
That's an extremely tough one, and that's why I like the hybrid or job that we do at the office. It's really, really tough. I remember we did our best in a studio to stay together during the lockdown, etc. That we all had to work from home, and it's really hard. I can't lie to you. We tried many casual getting-togethers meetings during the day. Like if you just go to the kitchen and talk, like you're having a coffee or getting some water there. We try to mimic that a little bit in the virtual environment. It's just like random calls and chit chat, and it helps if people are closer together and they're friends. But it's a really tough one, especially for me. I'm really, what I was saying before, that everybody's different. I'm very of a in-person person, like face-to-face interaction. And maybe it's also useful as much as possible to actually bring people together in a physical space, unless they're working all over the world. But that's what I would try as well. But to be fair, there's no right answer. Where if you play Death Stranding, is a perfect there. We are so social animals, and we can escape that. And it's impossible to mimic the face-to-face interaction. So not a super positive answer, but hopefully it helps a little bit.
Thank you.
Hi, Mark. You had kind of quite a self-centric view of how you need to improve yourself to be a middle manager. But part of being a middle manager is connecting with your manager who maybe sits above you, your lead or your director or something. How do you feel that you can work with your direct manager to help you? How do you work with them to find a way to improve, or how do you find a way to be able to be mentored better, I think is probably what I'm trying to ask.
So you mean reversing what we're doing right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I would say it depends on your position, to be fair. I mean, what can you do? Do you have anyone that you are already applying that this method or whatever method is positive for you to other people, or you can share more positive methods with the people above or trying to improve. I would say, as I said before, the communication, that's the essential key. And if I'm imagining the situation, I interact and I propose and I think this, we could do this and this and this, we'll think. And as long as there's that open communication, because if there's no communication, that's where it's absolutely impossible. So I want to talk with you, Mr. Boss, and say, well, no, I'm busy. That's when everything breaks. But if you can say, what about this? What if you do this, and you propose these ideas, and I felt this way. So seeing yourself from the other side is trying to enable that communication with the person and allowing yourself to being observed. It's like saying if you need help or you want their attention, like trying to get it. And hopefully that makes some difference. That's as good as it gets. Otherwise, you can add that to the list of bad bosses or bad things that say, I don't like this because I can't communicate or interact with my superiors. But hopefully that helps. Okay, that's it. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the develop, and we can talk. You'll see me around. So thank you.